The FBI combing through a car belonging to the Las Vegas gunman days after he killed 58 people in cold blood.
New information has come out. He booked a hotel room in Chicago. Now, this hotel overlooks the Lollapalooza Festival, a huge music festival.
Another reported location, Boston.
Members of both parties are looking to take action on bump stocks, add-on devices that make semi-automatic weapons more deadly.
We'll be looking into that over the next short period of time.
That's what we want to prevent, for someone to be able to fire 400, 500, 800 rounds per minute.
The NRA, they came out and said those products should be subject to regulation.
The other side has been so outright trying to politicize this tragedy that we did feel the need to speak out in this whole bump stock issue.
A heartwarming moment between President Trump and a shooting victim that is now going viral.
The President of the United States comes in this room, no matter who the president is, you stand up and you shake their hand and show them the respect that they deserve.
All right, straight to that Fox News alert. The FBI tracking down and combing through a car belonging to the Las Vegas gunman days after he killed 58 people in cold blood.
The SUV could contain critical information now about his motive.
Jillian is live again in Las Vegas where with breaking details. It is 4 o'clock there. Jillian, what is the very latest?
That's right. So we were made aware that police have found his Hyundai Tucson that was located actually at a home he owns in Reno. Now, what is inside of that vehicle? That's still information we don't have at this point. But police did release details about what was inside his vehicle at the Mandalay Bay. That includes 1,600 rounds of ammunition, ammonium nitrate, and 50 pounds of tannerite. Now, here's other information that we know, and this is where things start to get a little bit twisted, so follow me here for a second. We know that Stephen Paddock actually reserved hotel rooms at a hotel in Chicago called Chicago's Blackstone Hotel. Now, we also know that these rooms were booked while the Lollapalooza Festival was going on. That is a massive, a huge music festival that attracts tens of thousands of people from all over the country. We also know he never showed up for that reservation. Police have also made us aware that he has been researching hotels near Fenway and Boston. At this point, we have not been made aware that he actually booked any rooms, but we do know that he was researching those rooms. We also know that he did book hotel rooms at another place here in Las Vegas. That was for the Life is Beautiful music festival while that was going on. Now, also, there are reports coming out later last night, earlier this morning, that his girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley, said that she was concerned about his mental stability, that he would often scream out things in the middle of the night while he was sleeping, things like, oh, my God. One former CIA analyst says these are sure tell signs that he is a psychopath.
Seems like this is a psychopath who was hiding his severe mental illness for a long time, and that would fit in with a lot of what we do know so far. Did he want to just find the most advantageous position for maximum carnage? If that was the case, the political motive is no longer there, and you're just dealing with a mass murdering psychopath.
Now, we also want to let you know there was a really emotional memorial service held last night for Charleston Hartfield, the off-duty Las Vegas police officer who was killed in the shooting. He does leave behind a son and a daughter. You can see in the video there just a lot of people attending that, a lot of his former coworkers, a lot of people, family, friends out there. So an emotional night here in Las Vegas. But guys, the big thing right now is there are still so many questions that need to be answered, so many things we don't know. And the biggest thing of all that people want to know is why did he do this? And did he do this with any help? So we'll keep you posted if we get any more information throughout the morning. Back to you.
So maybe a mysterious woman outside his girlfriend, and let's see what else the surveillance cameras turn up. Thanks, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian.
All right, 3 minutes after the top of the hour. Let's bring in the former chairman of Oversight Committee, Jason Chaffetz. Everyone's frustrated at the pace in which people are being informed about what happened and what was behind this attack.
Look, I think the public wants to know, but we also need to be patient because you have everywhere from the FBI and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, but you're also, given the international nature, you're going to have the NSA, you're going to have the CIA, you're going to have the Department of Treasury looking at where money is flowing. I think they know an awful lot. And I'm actually glad that they're not sharing that at this point. If we're just patient a little bit, I know that they're on it, and I know that they're making progress. And as much as I personally want to know, let the law enforcement people do what they need to do.
Otherwise, we're distracted by every other situation that might have happened that doesn't ultimately end up being the case.
Well, law enforcement also wants to see what other people are doing. Where are they moving? What are they chattering about? Where are they moving money? And if there is something bigger to this, then they want to know that and let them kind of do what they're doing while keeping their eyes on them.
Just look at what Sheriff Lombardo said a couple of days ago. Yeah. He felt that the guy had an escape plan. In his master plan, he was going to survive the shooting and then get out. And some have suggested that is why he had 50 pounds of tannerite in his car. Tannerite is the same explosive that the Chelsea, New York bomber used. So maybe that was Act Two.
He was obviously planning this for a long period of time. He had obviously done a lot of research, and it is, as the sheriff said, pretty hard to fathom that he did this alone. There had to be somebody who had some expertise who helped him at some point, and that's what they're ferreting out right now.
So right now, every time something like this happens, you have a big call for gun regulations and a big pushback. Guns are not the problem. We might have had something to agree on, that these bump stocks need to be looked at. Things that were put evidently for the disabled to be able to shoot a gun easier is now being used way too often, apparently, by people looking to make a semi-automatic an automatic.
So an automatic weapon, you just hold the trigger down and it just keeps firing as fast as it possibly can. A semi-automatic, which is legal, the automatic is illegal. You have to actually pull the trigger. But this is a device that was, that was approved in the Obama administration. To actually get around that. And so I do think it is right, whether it's regulated or whether or not they just actually pass a piece of legislation. But there are lots of other things that we could actually do to fight gun crime in this country.
Which is?
Well, for instance, surprisingly, there's actually legislation that Lindsey Graham and others are trying to move. In the last 5 years, there were actually a 175% increase in the number of robberies, 175% increase of robberies of FFLs, federal firearms licensees. That put more than 7,000 illegal guns out on their streets. Why aren't they focusing on that?
So are you asking for more gun laws or just the enforcement of what?
You don't need more gun laws. You've got to fix the ATF. They need a Senate-confirmed director. They've only had one since 2006. I do think there's mental health databases that should be populated into what's called NICS.
But this guy wasn't on any of those.
It wouldn't have necessarily solved this, but if you look at the problem of guns, if the Democrats were sincere, they would help Republicans in these regards, rather than saying, let's get rid of the Second Amendment. And essentially, they want to take away all our guns. And they're not going to do that.
Isn't the bigger picture when we look at these shootings, and of course we can talk about guns and this bump stock, I think a majority of people say, we didn't even know that this existed. And if you have the ability to kill hundreds of people in a matter of minutes, that is horrible and makes no sense. But what drives someone to wake up one morning and say, I want to kill myself and I want to kill as many other people as possible? If it's not going to be guns, they're going to find a way.
But it wasn't one morning. It was plotted and planned, and it could have been planned for months.
But at some point in his life, something switched.
There was a deep-seated evil that infused itself into this person, and we better understand that, because I worry there are more people like that, that he wasn't just the only people out of 330 million people in this country.
What some of the experts have suggested, and this is one of the leaks, is something they feel happened in his life in October of 2016, and that's when he really started to accelerate the pace at which he started gathering guns.
Well, you got to go back and look at the history of his dad. He's one of America's, most wanted people by the FBI, and then look at his brother, and so they're piecing that together, and it's going to take a little bit of time.
Nancy Pelosi let it slip when asked about guns, and this, he goes, a lot of Republicans fear this is going to be a slippery slope. She goes, we hope so. So it's exactly what Republicans fear that she wants.
I actually
neutralization of the Second Amendment.
I actually like it when the Democrats actually say what they're really saying. They want to take away guns. They don't believe in the Constitution. They don't want to have the Second Amendment there. But I got to tell you, I have 5 guns. I'm a concealed carry permit holder. My wife is too. And they're not taking away our guns. They're just not going to do it.
You talked about piecing things together. Well, there are a lot of reporters in D.C. now trying to piece together what the president said last night, often leaving them hanging. So he had this dinner with some generals, and he invited their wives there. And the media was in their room thinking it was just going to be a regular night. And immediately he calls them saying, I want you here at this dinner. And here he is taking photos, and he says this.
You guys know what this represents? Well, it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
No, he loves doing that. The calm before the storm. Now we have no idea what he's talking about. North Korea, Iran.
What are we talking, do you think?
I don't know. But look, the president.
But isn't that the idea?
I do think it is the right strategy. You don't want your enemies, you don't want to telegraph them what you're going to do. And whether you're in Libya or Afghanistan, whether you're in North Korea
Is he
or in
talking
Iran.
about me?
Yes. And if you're feeling guilty, you're thinking, oh, they know. They really do know.
But you know, so this president, it's nonstop news. So here he is on a photo op.
Yeah.
And he's still got.
And it seems so impromptu.
It's intriguing.
Because the press pool had been told, you're done for the night. Then apparently he was probably talking to the generals and said, you know what? Let's do this.
I would have loved
I'm going to
see
call
the
him in,
White
and he
House
did.
communications team off to the side. I would have loved to have a camera on them to see how they were reacting.
Right.
Yeah, put a blood pressure cuff on somebody.
But on a serious note, I do think it is the right thing for the president to do, to put people on notice, to say, if I need to pull the trigger, I will. And that's what I want in our president, to protect the United States.
Right.
If there's a clear and present danger, go with overwhelming force and take out the threat.
Yeah,
that's what I want him to do.
He could be talking about anything. He could be sending a message to Kim Jong-un. He could be sending a message to China, to ISIS, to Iran, you name it. You're right, it is a different tactic, but it could be very smart.
They got him in our A block. So that's it's very good. They got it on your things to talk about, Liz. All right, good job.
Hey, thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. And you're on the 5 tonight. We'll see you there.
Yes, that's going to be fun. I haven't done that before, so it'll be fun.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up on this Friday, reports the Las Vegas shooter may have had his sights on another town, maybe Chicago or Boston.
Ed Davis was that city's police commissioner during the marathon bombing. He's here to respond next.
Then more of my exclusive interview with the new ambassador to Russia. My dad, what he and my mom say about their move to Moscow and their message to all of those who serve. That's coming up.
They all want to help. They all want to do something to repay this country for what it's done for them. Basic freedom and liberty. And this is all our small way of giving back.
Fox News alert now. Investigators looking into reports the Las Vegas shooter was scouting other locations, for example, hotels near Boston's Fenway Park. That's before Sunday night's massacre would have been during the summer. Here to react, former Boston Police Commissioner, Fox News contributor Ed Davis, who was actually in Las Vegas during the shooting, and now we got to bring it to the Boston angle to this. First off, Commissioner, are we to believe the reports that there was actually some indication that he wanted to shoot up fans as they left the park?
Well, unfortunately, that's true. I spoke to two police individuals yesterday, two sources that confirmed that he was looking at Boston and Chicago as locations.
How is it similar to where he ultimately ended up perpetrating the massacre? It would have been a high location shooting down again at unsuspecting fans or supporters.
That's correct. That's correct. The hotel that he was looking at overlooks Kenmore Square, and that's where the crowds leave the park. So, this is a place that we use for surveillance when we would manage big events down there. And quite frankly, he was doing his homework.
Did you ever, in thinking about possible attack points, game plan out what if a gunman got here?
Well, that was always part of our planning on any kind of big event, presidential visits, parades, things like that. We would have, especially working with the Secret Service, that's an integral part of their preparation. But not for every event that happened, because it's not something that we see frequently. So it's not standard.
Will it now be? Will you be constantly looking at high perches, looking down at crowds?
I think there's no doubt that this is going to become a requirement now for outside venues. We're offering this as a service. Other companies are going to do this. This is going to become a main issue in security.
I remember the Boston bombing. You were briefing often, and we have another a great law enforcement leader in Sheriff Joe Lombardo. Yesterday or 2 days ago, at the end, in the question and answer period, he said this and speculated and kind of led us into his thinking.
Do you think this was all accomplished on his own? Self-value, face value. You got to make the assumption that he had to have some help at some point.
He was kind of bringing us into his line of thinking. What are your thoughts about him bringing us there? Because we weren't even thinking necessarily accomplice. He's thinking logically, yeah, there might have been. What do you think?
Well, his thinking is based upon information that he has that we don't know about yet. So I would put a lot of stock in what he has to say. It's probably based on information and evidence that he is working with right now. So the next few days are going to be extremely interesting. The review of the videotapes of the hotel, I know that took time in our investigation. It's going to take a week or two to get through all that stuff. There's a lot coming down the road on this.
Let alone what they're doing internationally, retracing his cruise stops. Commissioner, if I put you on the spot right now and we're having a couple of beers across the street and I say, tell me what you think happened, what would you tell me?
I think he's akin to a mass murderer. I think that he's somewhat of a, there's no real explanation for it except that he wanted to do this because he liked it. That's the problem with these guys. They like it.
But they never did it before. There's no track record of ever doing it. They think about it. They fantasize about it. It's part of their most deepest secrets, and then they start doing it. And some people do it over a period of time. Other people do it all at once. And this, this is an evil genius, I think. There might be something else going on here that I don't know about, but that's the only explanation I can come up with right now. Commissioner Ed Davis, who's been through the same thing before when a terror attack hits a major city, happened in Boston. Commissioner, thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Coming up straight ahead, forget sanctuary cities. The sanctuary state just made it official. I'm talking about California. That's a big blank you to the Trump administration. How will they respond? And more of Abby's exclusive interview with her dad, the new ambassador to Russia. You're not going to hear this anywhere else unless she licensed out the video behind my back. And if she does, she has a lot of explaining to do.
We are back now with some Friday morning headlines. First up, new details about the ambush attack that killed 3 American Green Berets in Africa. The Pentagon now says there were no U.S. surveillance drones overhead before or during the joint training mission in Niger. That's because the local government doesn't allow them. Retired Green Beret Commander Lieutenant Colonel Michael Waltz joined us earlier saying it seems like the attackers were tipped off.
It looks like it. My understanding is they were going out to meet some of the tribal elders, and then they were hit on their way back, and they were ambushed.
2 other U.S. Special Forces soldiers were hurt in the attack. Al-Qaeda suspected of carrying it out. And as the U.S. braces for another possible hurricane this weekend, the Caribbean continues to reel from Hurricane Maria. Today, the vice president heads to the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico to survey damage and meet with some of the victims. His visit comes one day after he met with Puerto Rican evacuees in the state of Florida, offering them support. President Trump toured hurricane-ravaged Puerto Rico just a couple of days ago on Tuesday.
And another one on the way. Unbelievable scene.
Meanwhile, it is just a week from yesterday that Abby's father will officially be the brand new ambassador for the United States to Russia, and he's going to head to Russia.
He's going to move to Moscow. He's taking my mom with him, 2 of my little sisters, but leaving 5 of the kids behind. So I caught up with him yesterday, spoke with him and my mom, who has been such a trooper. I think this is the 15th time she has moved with my dad, somewhere foreign, somewhere new. And here's what she said. Mom, how are you feeling? I mean, you are the most important piece of this whole puzzle because you've done a move like this 15 times. You just have to get up and go.
Hey, we are always running by the seat of our pants. The night before, Dad asked me to marry him. He said, I hope you're ready for an exciting life, but it's going to be one filled with service. So when this job came up, I really didn't even bat an eye. I just said, you know what, let's do it.
It's going to be tough. You're leaving 5 of the 7 kids behind. You know, you've got more grandkids on the way.
I'm reminded of the men and women that are in uniform and those that are, in this building, the State Department, that go out anywhere in the world and go through the same challenges of leaving family, leaving parents that are aging, missing graduations, missing, births of grandchildren.
But you know what? You pass down to the grandkids exactly what you guys taught us. And that's service, and that's giving back and helping other people. And we're so grateful that we get to bring another life into this world and have that example to live by, because that's what makes us all better people. That's what makes this country better. And you 2 are about to go spend the next how many months, years of your life giving back. You probably couldn't do it without Mom.
And I couldn't do it without Mom. She's far and away the best attribute that the United States will have, far better than the ambassador in
She's
Moscow.
Certainly a pretty one.
There's no question about that. But I'm grateful to my own dad for instilling in me the sense of service and sacrifice. It's what I was raised with. And all of you were raised with the same ethos, and that is really the price for living in this country and for having citizenship in the greatest land ever is service. And I think Americans understand that in all walks of life. They all want to help. They all want to do something to repay this country for what it's done for them. Basic freedom and liberty. And this is all our small way of giving back, thanks to the president for asking us to do it.
You wear this every day.
I wear this every day. I cry if I talk too much about it, but it's a gift from your dad. It says, please protect them with the initials of your two brothers in the U.S. Navy. And I think about every day the men and women serving our country. I think about our two sons. I think about our children. And it's something that I cling on to every day. And it just, all I can say is please protect them. And it just gives me that strength and that hope to get through each day. So
they give us all strength in this family. Every time we feel like we're having a hard day, we think about John and Will, and we know whatever they're going through, it's probably a little more challenging, a little more difficult, but they're so proud to do it. You know?
And it's made it so that there was no question when your dad was asked to do this. My goodness, of course.
Well, we'll be stronger. We'll be stronger as a family going through this again.
We will. A lot of Skyping, a lot of...
How do we communicate there?
We'll talk about that later.
Okay. I love you guys so much.
Thanks, Abs.
Well, not only are they going away, but he is also going to the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
The hacking thing that popped out today and the day before, and the expulsion of other diplomats right before he gets his job. He's going into it makes the China thing seem like a walk in the park.
Unbelievable, right? So he'll be the first ambassador to both China and now Russia. You mentioned it, cyber hacking, proliferation.
Yeah.
ISIS, Syria, Ukraine. The Balkans, I mean, the list of things that they're going to have to deal with is unreal. But I'm so glad that we were able to talk to my mom, because when we talk about patriotism on the show all the time and the patriots in this country, she is one of the best examples of that to me, because not only does she support my dad in his service, but a military mom with two sons that are out doing their thing, protecting all of us and allowing us to have our freedoms. It's people like her that make this country so great.
Behind every great man and
it's so true.
Great sons, a great mom and wife. However, while 5 are left at home, your sister is going to go and work at the embassy.
She's going to work at the embassy. She doesn't know what she's doing yet, but she wants to go there and
stamp
help.
some visas.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of empty
she's
desks.
from China, so imagine that. She was born in Yangzhou, China, now working in the Russian embassy for the United States.
Wow. Right.
That's how it goes, you know?
Wow, it's going to be great. And, of course, the World Cup's going to be there in the summer, so the whole world will be there. Meanwhile,
what a great family.
Yeah, that was awesome. And that'll be posted online, too. 29 minutes after the hour, straight ahead. Hillary Clinton tells Americans not to play politics after the mass shooting, but then she played politics again. That's next.
Plus, forget sanctuary cities, a sanctuary state was just born. Judge Jeanine Pirro. Well, you have a pretty good idea how she feels about that. She's going to weigh in on it coming up. We are back with the Fox News Alert. The Las Vegas shooter may have been planning other deadly attacks in other major American cities.
Yeah, the gunman booked but never checked into a Chicago hotel in August. His phone also shows a Google search of hotels around Fenway Park in Boston.
And we could soon get new information on the gunman's deadly motive. The FBI finding one of his cars and scouring it for clues.
Investigators also on the lookout for a mystery woman seen with the shooter days before he killed 58 innocent people. Let's bring in Judge Jeanine Pirro, host of Justice, getting ready for her weekend. Well, Judge, what do you think? About what this guy, we're all trying to figure out what his motive was. Right now, they may know something, but they're not being...
Look, I don't know enough to know what his motive is, and I do respect law enforcement for keeping it close to the vest right now. But they do know a lot more than they're telling us. I mean, I've done these things, and the last thing you want is for people to know what you know, for people to know who you're going to talk to next. And but look, I want to know, who was this woman he was with in the casino? And I'll bet bet you dollars to donuts that they're using her and saying to the girl that he was living with, you know what? What's he doing with this woman? What's going on there?
Oh.
And by the way, I am so sick and tired.
Why would you do that? Because you want to get her to realize, cut your ties.
Yeah, cut your ties, baby. We got somebody here. We need to know more about him. And don't tell me the guy is crazy. I've tried murder cases. Insanity defense is crazy. The fact that the guy wakes up screaming at night doesn't mean a darn thing. Maybe he saw a bad Stephen King movie. I don't know.
That was the report that the girlfriend said.
Yeah, that's what the girlfriend said. He wakes up at night screaming. So what? Maybe he had a bad dream. Look, insanity is very specific. This guy was focused. He was premeditated. He was in the moment. He knew what he was doing. Evil is not the same as insanity.
It seems crazy that at this point, no one knew about it. He was planning on it, now reporting for months now.
30 guns.
He had checked into other hotels in other big cities, Boston, Chicago, and yet his girlfriend says she knew nothing about this. His family members, no idea, nothing on social media. Is that unusual to you? You have followed so many of these types of cases closely, that he was so quiet and private and secretive about all this.
You know, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. If you recall, San Bernardino, nobody knew. Nobody knew. The family didn't know. And then we find out that they knew. Look, there are always telltales. And when a guy was as focused as he was, the guy had airplanes, all right? The guy had no military experience. How did he learn to shoot like this? How did he learn what it would take to shoot from that angle at that height?
Little tripods on the guns and the platform.
He had help. There's no question in my mind, and I'm not in it. I'm not in the middle of this investigation. But what I do know is this is not just one guy. This is too vast for one guy.
And he had a dozen bump stocks on his guns, which is what now a lot of people are talking about, whether we should ban those.
Well, you can thank Barack Obama for that one. I mean, you know, while the left goes ballistic, we can say, gee, Barack, you missed that one. And you also missed Chicago. You missed all those African Americans dying there. And, you know, shall we go into Hillary yet?
Well, absolutely, because so many people, shortly after the gun smoke essentially cleared, then people were saying it's too early to talk about politics. It's too early. Hillary Clinton said that, and then she got political. Here she is with Jimmy Fallon.
I can't believe that one whole political party in the greatest country on earth is totally sold to the gun lobby. The vast majority of Americans and the vast majority of gun owners know we need common sense gun safety measures.
Well, Judge, there are so many Republicans who are saying we got to do something about these bump stocks. So that's not accurate, what she just said.
Well, look, I truly believe that something is going to happen with bump stock. Here, the law is very clear. You can't have an automatic weapon. And when you take a bump stock to take a semi-automatic rifle, turn it into automatic, although my friends who are expert marksmen say, you know, it's not really automatic because you still have to kind of put your finger on the trigger. You know, it kind of bumps. But be that as it may, I think this is going down. But make no mistake, you can get a spool of plastic, put it into a 3D printer, and get yourself a match.
You can use your belt.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but let's talk about Hillary.
Right.
The woman comes out 12 hours later, and I'm going to talk about this on my show. She says, imagine the deaths if a shooter had a silencer. 12 hours later. Do you have a heart, woman? Do you know how many bodies are still there, splayed out among the carnage? How many parents are looking for their kids, and you're worried about being politically appropriate?
Right. I agree with you on all that. But I also think that every time there's a shooting, we go to one area in which we want to focus on. Now it's this thing. Okay, fine. Remember, it was mental health. Well, this is not a mental health problem. Then it was universal background checks. He got background checks. So everyone is desperate. I can understand the frustration to label it and find out who did it. But what are we going to walk away with here? No more guns in America? Well, is that the new push?
That is their agenda. Their agenda is to take away our guns. And they're not taking away my guns and to get rid of the NRA and to blame us as co-conspirators for all these lunatics. Let me tell you what the problem is. I used to sign pistol permits all the time when I was a judge. I'd go through my own questioning. We do have a certain information we get. The thing that we need that we will never get from the Democrats is the ability to get into the HIPAA information that we need.
Medical.
I want to know what your medical background is. Have you been in a psychiatric hospital? Are you on psychotropic drugs? They're never going to give us that because that's private.
But Judge, you know what the problem is? If I feel as though I need help, but I also love my guns, I'm going to be afraid to go to a psychiatrist because they're going to turn on me, even though I'm trying to get better.
Well,
that's the problem.
Well, I know that's the problem, but here's the bottom line. You're not going to find out who the lunatics are, who the ones are who are in need of help, unless you find out. You know, they can fill out a form and say, I'm not on psychotropic drugs. I've never been in a mental institution. He was. Of course he was.
Yeah, what drives
We have a lot to discuss.
Judge Jeanine, we'll be tuning into your show this weekend.
Can I just say
I know we'll all be.
We're fired up.
Judge, can I just say one thing? I know when you're about to tee off because you slide up on the seat just a little bit, and I get a little scared.
You do?
Yeah. I almost switched seats with Abby.
I was noticing that you were kind of sweaty palms.
As soon as she moved up, I thought I was in trouble.
Yeah,
Thanks, Judge.
All right. Abby, you got some headlines.
I do. Some other headlines we're following this morning. Forget sanctuary cities. California, now officially the first sanctuary state. Governor Jerry Brown defying the Trump administration by signing a bill that prevents law enforcement from asking people about their immigration status and taking part in federal enforcement efforts. Well, the law comes despite the Department of Justice's threat to withhold federal funding to all sanctuary cities. And the State Department is now considering a request by the parents of Otto Warmbier to designate North Korea as a state sponsor of terror. Otto died after being released by North Korea back in June. His parents, Fred and Cindy Warmbier, teamed up with 12 senators to send a formal request to the Secretary of State. The Warmbiers joining Fox and Friends last week to make their case was pretty powerful. Take a listen.
North Korea claiming to be a victim and that the world is picking on them. And we're here to tell you North Korea is not a victim. They're terrorists. They kidnapped Otto. They tortured him. We owe it to the world to list North Korea as a state sponsor of terror.
This is some big news. Only 3 countries are currently on the State Department's list: Iran, Syria, and Sudan. Also, there's a national effort under fire from atheists. The governor of Kentucky slammed for urging students to take part in Bring Your Bible to School Day.
Use it as a point of conversation and conversation with other students. This is absolutely your right to do this. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
On Facebook, the Freedom from Religion Foundation writes this: such irresponsible misuse of public office appears to give the green light to school officials to likewise misuse their authority to promote religion to a captive audience of school children. And a tribute to a legendary rock star, Tom Petty, will be remembered this weekend at the University of Florida's homecoming game, where he used to be a groundskeeper. He will be honored as this classic plays throughout the stadium. Boy, will he be missed. Fans also calling for a statue of the rocker to go up in his hometown of Gainesville.
I didn't realize you worked on the grounds crew.
I didn't either.
No.
Wow.
There you go. Tom Petty. All right, coming up on this Friday, President Trump, the consoler-in-chief this week in Las Vegas. How has he done in times of crisis? We're going to talk about that.
And the Dow keeps on climbing, breaking multiple records since the president took office. So why isn't anyone talking about that? Well, Stu Varney is, and he's joining us next.
It was one of the president's biggest campaign promises about a year ago.
We're going to make our country rich again. We will make America rich again. Make America rich again. We're going to make America rich again.
Well, and since the election, he has helped do just that.
Stuart Varney is here, host of Varney & Company, gets set to take the reins from 9 till noon. Stuart, no one talked about the trade deficit going down. No one talked about how the market will react to a budget on track to get passed, let alone a tax plan that was finally framed out.
I'm going to give you a number, a huge number. $5,121,780,000,000. That's how much America's wealth has gone up since the election of Donald Trump, November 8th, 2016. That is a phenomenal stock market rally, an extraordinary growth rate for our nation's wealth.
Why is that, Stu?
Well, the election of Donald Trump opened up the promise of growth in the economy. He's going to have a tax cut plan that should boost the economy. We should get to maybe 3-4% growth. We're already at 3% If we get better than that, that's what the market's hoping for. Profits go up, jobs go up, wages go up, the stock market goes to the moon.
What a great story for the president, but, the mainstream media not really covering it. And I think the president is frustrated because yesterday about this time, he tweeted this out. Stock market hits an all-time high, unemployment lowest in 16 years, business and manufacturing enthusiasm at highest level in decades.
The media is not covering this. They don't want to see a success story for Mr. Trump.
Well, they didn't think he was going to win.
No, and this is a success story. Before the election, the pundits were saying, if he wins, the market goes down. The very day he won, it started to go up. And now you've got an extra $5 trillion worth of wealth in our economy. Nobody saw this coming. And now that it's here, the media does not want to report it.
So this is good for Wall Street. What does this mean for Main Street?
Well, anybody who's got a 401k, an IRA, college savings plan, a union pension plan, a company pension plan, an investment account of their own, anybody who's got any dime in the stock market shares in this extra $5 trillion worth of wealth. You can borrow against that extra wealth to improve your house, buy another house, buy a car, take a vacation, whatever it is. That's very good for the overall growth rate of the economy.
But I remember when our economy was doing well and the Iraq war wasn't. I remember Neil Cavuto doing an interview with President Bush, and he's like, the economy's doing good. He goes, yeah, but no one reports that because the Iraq war was the main thing. All these other major events, the hurricanes, the horrific massacre on Sunday, the North Korean situation. It is in fairness, these are huge stories.
Yes, they are huge stories, but don't detract from the basic fact that our economy is doing very well, and it's doing very well in large part because of the election of Donald Trump. Don't detract from that. Don't not report that story because it's vital to America. We're doing well. Wake up. We're doing well.
We can multitask.
All right.
Stuart Varney, good to see you this morning. We'll see you soon on the air.
You will. Thank you.
All right, 11 minutes before the top of the hour because Stuart went a little long. President Trump, consoler-in-chief from Puerto Rico to Vegas. But why are his critics still attacking him in times of crisis? Are they overlooking the leadership for the entire administration? We'll examine that next.
Thank you, Stuart.